only formative work from students that teachers at BPP Law School ever mark are mock exams. You get one mock exam per module and it comes halfway through the 10 weeks of each term. Every week you get homework in each module, but as I've already stated, teachers never mark that. They do clarify the answers in the live lessons, but given how much the course costs, teachers arguably owe students a lot more than that. Criminal law is the only module where sample answers to exam questions were shared with students before either mock exams or the exams that actually count towards your qualification, summative exams that is. So first, you're not getting your homework marked, meaning that you're not getting feedback specific to your personal and individual needs on how to structure and apply legal principles to a given legal scenario. Then, other than in criminal law, you're not getting a single example of a model answer to an exam question before attempting even a mock exam. In Contract and Tort, we got a sample answer after the mock exam, and since that was before the summative exam, that was obviously better than never getting a model answer. In Public Law 1, we never ever got a model exam answer. Company law was assessed completely by MCQs, multiple choice questions. BPP is rich with practice MCQs, including both formative ones, which are easier than exam level ones, and exam level ones. Where MCQs are concerned, you will not be shortchanged at BPP. BPP is rich. As for the 4 Term 2 modules, in Land and Trusts we never got a sample answer. Public Law 2 was assessed completely by MCQs. Criminal Law was the 4th Term 2 module. If your employer is paying your fees, then your homework is something that BPP will make available to them to enable them to check up on you. Whether your employer will actually perform such checks, I can't say. I am under the impression that not one of my teachers had an actual teaching qualification. They've got knowledge of law, but they don't know how to impart that knowledge to others. For instance, they ask a question and then, after waiting about 5 seconds for an answer, they start challenging the class with obvious impatience for not answering. That isn't teaching, that's harassment. The fact that we're adult learners doesn't change that. A pass mark for all modules is 50%. When modules are assessed by a combination of coursework and MCQs, you have to get at least 50% in each of those 2 elements in order to pass. So suppose in one such module you get 26 out of 40 in the MCQs and say 28 out of 60 for the coursework, you fail. You've scored 54% overall, but you got less than 50% in the coursework element. You only have to resit whichever element you fail, but that could no less mean resitting both elements, as you can tell. If you fail even one module, your overall grade for PGDL is capped at 50%, a pass, as is your grade for that same module in your resit. You have the freedom to show your grades for each of the 8 modules to prospective employers though. Having a pass in a single module while having distinctions in your 7 other modules, for instance, will be massively impressive to employers, I believe. In a first sit of exams, you get feedback on all your modules, whether you've passed or failed. In a resit, you don't get any feedback on a module if you pass. Public Law 1 was assessed completely by coursework. Company Law and Public Law 2 were assessed completely by MCQs. Criminal Law was assessed by speaking coursework and by MCQs. The coursework for Land and Trusts was combined into a single piece of work, a written task. The MCQs for Land was a separate exam to the MCQs for Trusts. Contract was assessed by a combination of written coursework and MCQs, and so was Tort. For Company Law and Public Law 2, which are both MCQ-only exams, I got a distinction. For Land and Trusts, I got a merit. For Contract and Tort, I got a pass. After failing Public Law 1 and Criminal Law on the first sit, I passed them on the resit. Failing Criminal Law was down to me. As for Public Law 1, the workshops, or in other words the live lessons, offered no preparation of any kind for the coursework task, and neither did the core text. I passed the resit with books that actually cater to people with no background in either law, politics or political history, people like me then, unlike the core text. And keep in mind too that you don't get model exam answers in Public Law 1 or in any other module except Criminal Law. In Term 1, all our learning materials were online, so studying inevitably involved prolonged periods of screen time. In the break between Term 1 and Term 2, BPP announced that they would be providing physical copies of the teaching materials, which they called workbooks, 1 per module, and they asked us to indicate whether we wanted a set. When I got mine, I chose against going to get them bound and instead just punched holes in them and then of course tied them together with treasury tags. While it contained all the online learning content, which is stored in ADAPT, the learning area area of the hub. The workbooks, you see, were each just a set of loose sheets. While I didn't know that this was what the workbooks would be like before I received them, I actually only requested them because they were free. I'd already had the printer-friendly versions of the learning content printed and bound by a private printing service. To clarify, the other online version of the content takes the form of slideshows. They're not PowerPoint slideshows, but they are still visually appropriate, I'd say. In the first 8 months of the law conversion course, you do the PGDL. Lessons take the form of Adobe Connect video calls. Live lessons are an important strength to the course at BPP, as are recordings of live lessons, which are made available at the end of the week in which the lesson has taken place. For certain modules, I personally relied massively on these recorded lessons. In a live lesson, you have a teacher on hand to answer any questions on a legal point that you couldn't find the answer to anywhere else, and that can make all the difference to your learning. In the remaining 4 months, you do the SQE1. Again, lessons take the form of live video calls, but BPP doesn't provide recordings of those calls. After getting lesson recordings on PGDL and having had, as I've said, a huge level of reliance on those, I was totally unprepared for not getting them on SQE1. Not getting them on SQE1 effectively forced me off SQE1. In live lessons, you might get bitchiness from your fellow students. For instance, if you say an answer that's wrong, you might get a rude sod taking over and trashing what you said and then saying the correct answer. And yes, you do want to get up and punch that person's lights out. But when you're doing the course online, smashing the person's face in will tend to be a rather tricky thing to do. For PGDL alone, you can't get a postgraduate student loan. The law conversion course, a master's degree which includes both PGDL and SQE1, does entitle you to a postgraduate student loan as long as you haven't already got a master's degree. Exceptions to this, though, are a PGCE, a teaching qualification which is equivalent to a master's degree, and an honorary master's degree. If you've got either of those things, you may still qualify for a postgraduate student loan. My upper second class undergraduate degree qualified me for the law conversion course at BPP. I don't know if they accept lower class degrees than that from candidates. They will require proof of your degree class, in other words, your degree transcript, before they offer you a place if they're actually going to. I had to get my former university to send them my degree transcript from the year 1999, since my degree class isn't stated on my degree certificate. Putting my notes on video was a very important study tool for me. Criminal Law Topic 2, Core Principles, Assessment Level MCQs. A man has an argument with his partner and punches her in the shoulder. She falls over and hits her head on the edge of a table, sustaining head injuries from which she dies. He is charged with murder. He tells you that he had no intention to seriously injure her. How would you advise the man on his criminal liability for murder? He is not criminally liable for murder on the basis that, by his own account, he does not have the mens rea. Correct. The mens rea for murder is an intention to kill or to cause serious harm. R versus Vickers being the case authority for that. The man says he did not have either of these states of mind, so he should plead not guilty to murder. The other options were incorrect because... Sorry, I'm just trying to get rid of that stuff at the bottom. There we go. Punching his partner in the shoulder will not equate to serious harm. There is nothing in the facts to suggest, for example, that the man could rely on the fear or anger qualifying trigger for the purposes of loss of control. Also, there's no evidence, according to the facts that we've been presented with, that the man was acting to protect himself, honestly believing that force was necessary for the purpose of self-defence. And there's nothing in the facts with which we've been presented to say that the man was suffering from a recognised medical condition for the purpose of diminished responsibility. Next question. The finance department at BPP always complained that you haven't paid your fees even when you have. They even sent letters to my home demanding payment as well as emailing me, but I had already paid. After leaving me a comment below with any questions of yours on the law conversion course at BPP Law School, if you're going to ask me any, meet me at this video. Salut!